So thank you so much for joining me for the Uplifting Content podcast today. How are you?
I'm really well. How about you?
I'm good. It's nice to be home. I've had a 1 month adventure around Hawaii. I got back last week. So it's nice to be home, back to kind of my routine and figuring out what I'm doing. I had the time to reflect and cut out some of the things that I don't need to be doing. But it's good. I feel energized.
Lighter a little bit, perhaps?
Definitely. And it's like Hawaii forces you just to calm down. And it's a great break from the hustle and bustle of LA to like the chill of Hawaii where there's not much to do but just be.
Yes.
It was well needed. Yes.
Awesome.
So Noelle, I love to kick off these interviews by asking my guests to share a bit about your story and how you got to doing the work that you are doing today.
Yeah, thank you. So I am an accidental CEO.
Excellent.
Yes, my story, let's pick an entry point. I'd say it probably started around 7 years old when I first really remember struggling with depression and binge eating as a little guy. Yeah. And that followed
As a little guy, you said, sorry?
Yeah, as a little person at 7 years old.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that followed me through my life. I struggled with depression. I struggled with eating disorders through a very difficult early marriage and then early divorce. I got divorced when I was 29. And I really found myself questioning, how do you overcome major challenges? I was very disenfranchised with the medical model. I've been through lots of therapy and it's wonderful, but it really wasn't getting me where I needed to go. So I started seeking and I got really curious about, what's out there in terms of applied positive psychology. This blew my mind. I didn't realize that there was an actual science associated with happiness and specific tenets and steps to overcoming difficult things in your life and moving on to experience really true resiliency. So I dug my heels in, I dug my teeth in. I decided that I wanted to work with women as a coach. I decided that I wanted to help other women overcome what I was then able to. So I was able to kick eating disorders, kick depression, took myself back to graduate school, 3 master's degrees, PhD, founded a company all between 29 and 36. And then I ended up leaving my PhD near the end to take over as CEO at age 36 of JRNI Coaching. Brought the company to profitability, and 3 years later, here we are today.
Nice.
Thanks.
Nice. That's quite an achievement in that span of time. What an era of transformation it must have been for you.
Yes, very much so.
So I'm always curious in your seeking. So I guess a lot of the stuff that you learned about positive would have been in your studies. What were some of those takeaways? Because I am fascinated by studying what makes people happy rather than studying why people are sad does make sense. Is that the right understanding of positive psychology? And if so, what were some of the major takeaways that you got from that?
It is. You're absolutely right. So positive psychology is on the same continuum as generalized psychology. It's just a follow through where regular psychology, as we think about it, is based on pain and dysfunction and sadness. And positive psychology pushes forward past the threshold of baseline and says, what is it that makes people tick? What is it that will bring them to actual flourishing in life? There's a lot.
Oh, so yeah. Tell us.
There's a lot. I know. My favorite theorist is Barbara Fredrickson. And what was riveting to me when I first started looking at her work is that positive emotions have the same function in our body as nutrients that come from fruits and vegetables. Wow. So if you want to be healthy, if you want to eat healthy, if you want to have glowing skin, you should be eating lots of fruits and vegetables. If you want to be happy, if you want to experience positive emotions, if you want to essentially build a force field of resiliency in your head, you should induce positive emotions. And different positive emotions have different chemical impacts, just like the diversity of fruits and vegetables that exists.
Yeah. So there's ways that I can think of doing that. Like there's a great TED talk about the power poses and how there's certain ways that you can stand that make you feel good and like they make you feel confident. And if you smile, it makes you happy. But in the depths of my depression that I've experienced, it's really, how does one induce that? It seems to me that it would take a bit of practice to kick yourself out of the lower emotional states and do that. So what are some of the ways that you found people can do that?
You're right. It is a practice. And it's very much like, number one is awareness, is understanding, okay, there are a system of levers and pulleys in my brain that I can work with to manipulate my emotional state and how I respond to emotions, and even further, how negative emotions may impact me. So there's a couple fun facts that go in here. You cannot hold a negative thought and a positive thought at the same time. It's impossible. It's impossible. So a quick swap out of a really negative thought for a happy memory or something that you're excited about in the future is a quick fix. A really positive intervention. So applied positive interventions are like therapeutic interventions, but in the land of applied positive psychology. So from that perspective, writing in narrative fashion, long form fashion about what you want your life to be like 5-10 years from now, if everything has gone as well as it possibly could, is a fantastic way to just knock yourself out of a bad mood.
I already feel excited just by you saying that. And I've not even there's little bits of ideas that I have, but I'm really excited by that as an idea.
Yeah. Well, let's get into it. So tell me a little bit about what your life would be like.
Okay, cool. So I would say I'm working on a book right now. And so I would say that it comes out and it's popular and it leads to a lot of speaking engagements and fun things. I wanted to make a series out of it. And so the series, I do a couple more in the series. I have an idea of pivoting this podcast in the new year to one that's more focused on a depression handbook of just ways of overcoming depression. Because when I've experienced it, I was like, I wish there was a handbook, and there's not. And so that's, I think, going to be the new trajectory of the podcast. And I feel very excited about that. Just got in a relationship with someone, so excited to see where that goes. This is fun. I love this game. And then I have these visions to sort of build on a land that I have in Joshua Tree, and then sort of continue building and developing and getting some property under my belt, and then being able to travel so that I'm, have an income without having to work too much and traveling more. So adventures. This is great. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. How easy.
It's so, and so fun. And, if I were coaching you right now, I'd be drilling down on each of these pieces, and you've come alive.
Yeah.
I can see you vibrating with just, joy and excitement. What was it like for you to go there?
It's just really fun. It's such a simple thing too. And it's interesting that I haven't ever written it out like that. Even just saying it. It's very exciting. It's very exciting.
Yeah, it's a wonderful technique. And if you want to go a little bit deeper with it, I would suggest writing for 20 minutes for 3 days in a row. And that has such a chemical impact. You can experience an increased mood for up to 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then what do you do after the 3 weeks? Do you write another story, or you write a next chapter of your life? What happens then?
Variable. Then you get to work planning, there's my future. Where am I going? What's it going to look like? And then what do I need to do to work backwards? Where do I need to begin today?
I love that. And is this the type of way that you would work with clients?
Yeah, absolutely. This is how I train coaches, and this is how I work with clients. These are classic coaching interventions. These are classic positive psychology techniques.
Excellent. I'm very excited. I've been very curious with coaching and have been hesitant towards it because I just feel like there's a lot of people that coach out there. It's a very busy market, and I do feel excited about it as an idea, but I've never really taken the leap to do it. There's still a bit of uncertainty, but I'm very interested in the JRNI coaching program that you have. You've got one of the the main course is starting next week on the 17th of November.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about how that came to be and sort of what someone would expect from doing that program?
Yeah. So coaching is still an emerging field. It's probably where psychology, therapy, and counseling was maybe 50 or 60 years ago.
Mm.
So I think the general public knows kind of what being a coach could be like, or kind of what having a coach could be like, but very few people understand that this is actually a really complex science.
Mm.
And there's a methodology behind it. At its core, coaching is a communication methodology that
Mm-hmm.
allows you to move individuals, groups, and even organizations from point A to point B
Mm.
to engage with a state of authentic flourishing.
Mm.
So, when we're peeling back all of the layers of the onion, you can go really deep in a lot of different directions. So, what we do at JRNI is provide graduate level evidence based technique that's accredited by the ICF. So, it's an internationally recognized wellness credential when you come out the other end. And you work in community with other coaches to learn the tools, the techniques, the art of questioning, as it were.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So, one of the, I think, biggest misconceptions about coaching is that it's about advice giving.
Mm.
Coaches never give advice, or good
Mm.
coaches anyway, never
Mm-hmm.
give direct advice to clients. We believe that the client is the only person who can actually know what's going on in their life. And the client is the best director of their own life. We just need to uncover it. You need a flashlight and a mirror. A flashlight for the dark places you don't want to look, and a mirror to hold up what's actually going on. And then from there, we tackle your 5-year future vision and say, how are we going to get there?
Right. So I've it's funny. I'm working with a really fabulous coach right now, and I do really think that it's a great idea, and just to find the right coach too. Meet with different people,
Mm-hmm.
because it's a very unique relationship, and she's fantastic, and she kind of gives me her opinion, but it's never like I think you should do this. But then, for example, when I've had business coaches in the past, I've wanted something that's a little bit more okay. This is what's next step. This is what's next step. So, is there kind of different forms of coaching, or is kind of like what you're explaining more geared towards like life stuff? Is it okay in a business coaching situation to have someone that's a bit more hands-on if you need that advice, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So there's a lot of nuance to it. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of times, coaches wear many hats. So they might, in a business circumstance, also be a consultant or a mentor.
Right.
That would imply that somebody has direct knowledge that you want to draw from.
Right.
Um, a lot of times in coaching, there is the nuance of psychoeducation. And it's meant to be a co-equal relationship where the coach isn't in a position of power over the client. It's a co-equal partnership where coach and client come together to dump out everybody's life Legos and see how we need to rebuild them. So
Mm-hmm.
when we're sitting there, what I like to do is share my own hard-won knowledge with my clients. So I spent a lot of time in graduate school, and it would be a shame for me to retain all of that knowledge and power for myself. So I
Mm.
like to explain to my clients what I know about neurobiology, what I know about positive psychology, what I know about feminist theory, so that we have an even playing field to
Mm-hmm.
attack their life from.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so you've got this program happening. That's very exciting. You've also got the Catalyst Life Coaching podcast. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. So my business partner is John Kim. He goes by the Angry Therapist, and he's a great guy, good friend of mine. And we built the Catalyst Life Coaching Intensive together. So our podcast is focused every week on tools, tips, techniques. So if you're thinking about becoming a coach, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about it, it's a great place to tune in and get your sea legs.
Got it. And how important do you think social media is for coaches in this day and age?
It depends. It
Mm.
depends on how you want to work, who you want to work with. Um, right now, as the field of coaching is blowing up, there are a lot of jobs, direct jobs out there for coaches. There's a company called Noom, NOOM. They do a lot of wellness stuff. They're hiring right now. Amazon has a position that they just created for life coaches.
Wow.
So if someone, yeah, it's fantastic. So if someone is interested in the science as a discipline, as an actual professional competency that they could use in different market segments, you don't have to be a public person. You don't have to have your own shingle out. You can get a really great job working for somebody else. If you do have a niche area that you're really passionate about and you want to spread that message far and wide, social media can be awesome.
That's really interesting to know. Yeah, because I it seems like from the coaches that I know, that seems to be something that everybody does a lot of, or there's a big focus on it. But that's great if corporations are hiring coaches and there's, yeah. What is the Noon? You said Noon? Are they like
it's Noom, NOOM.
Mm-hmm.
And they're as near as I can tell, they're a health and wellness based company. They do a lot with macros and weight loss.
Got it.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what are the three biggest trends in the wellness economy right now?
Oh, goodness. Yeah. So what I'm seeing is corporate wellness is probably number one. And that's being driven by the fact that everybody's so miserable at work.
Yeah.
And burnout is becoming a huge issue for many folks. And so companies are starting to look at retention and longevity. Next up would be wellness tourism. And yeah, that's huge. And wellness tourism is any area where people travel to engage in health and wellness and make it a part of their retreat and make it a part of their lifestyle. And then that drops down to wellness at the regional level, which is being driven by two populations, the emerging middle-class consumer and millennials. And really specifically, those folks are sick of their waiting to solve a problem until the problem is really kind of festering, and they want to take charge of their lives, and they want to take charge of their health, and they want to take charge of their well-being before there is a problem.
And so these are kind of markets of people that are growing that would be possible if you were to get into coaching, but you could kind of go in that direction.
Directly. Yes, absolutely. So when we're looking at corporate wellness, a lot of companies have coaches in-house. A lot of HR reps are reaching out to us right now wanting to know, can these be part of our plans? Can we bring folks in? In the wellness tourism area, it is just growing, leaps and bounds. We partner with Wanderlust every year to bring coaching to their retreats, which is really beautiful. And then, looking just at our geographic areas, I don't advertise. I'm not on social media. My pipeline comes from folks in Philadelphia who know of my work. A lot of therapists refer me post-treatment. So it's really awesome.
It's an exciting time. There's a lot kind of, potential that's happening.
Yeah.
I love it. It's just some great questions that are worth mentioning here that I got from your team was, so can we talk about how, for someone that we're working from a strength-based perspective instead of from their deficiencies as a tactic for like kind of ways in which people can use some of these techniques in their lives. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah. So earlier, when I was talking about pulling all the levers and pulleys in your brain to kind of control for your emotional experience, that's what a strengths-based approach does. When you focus on the negative or you focus on a problem, you're engaging your nervous system. And that comes with it an evolutionary trait called negativity bias. Have you ever heard of it?
I have. Yeah. I talk about it because it's one of the ideas behind uplifting content is providing content that is uplifting. Because the argument is that, people don't want to hear happy things. They want to see negative things. I'm like, well, no, it's because there's not enough of it there. But I understand the negativity bias because we're trained to kind of look for threats and dangers, but give people an alternative and they actually like it and watch it and share it. And happy news goes viral.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I love that concept. And I'm so grateful you're putting this out into the world, because it's true. When we're using positive psychology in a strengths-based approach, we're not ignoring all of the bad stuff, but we're saying, hey, 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 there's also so much good. And if you hold it up in equal measure, that sets the foundation for true resiliency, which is an equal measure saying this is good and this is bad, and they both exist, and I'm going to be okay in spite of it.
And so working on the self in terms of like strength basis of our deficiencies, it's just being mindful of being able to see your strengths. Because I've also found that when I've been depressed or in just really low places, it's been very difficult for me to find my strengths or see what value I have or just say anything positive. So how are some ways like people can find their strengths when they might not be feeling good and all their voice in their head is saying is you suck and you're useless and no one cares about you?
Yeah. I mean, I would tackle that little voice and say, oh, that's interesting. That's an interesting little voice. What's the message that it needs to hear? That little voice sounds like it's really scared right now. It sounds like it's jumping around, waving its arms up and saying, hey, I'm really freaked out. So talking to that voice with kindness, assuming that it's a part of you from your younger years that needs to be integrated with the self. A lot of, early childhood work is super helpful there. And looking, externalizing too. When you are in your limbic brain clouded with negative emotions, your eyes narrow and you take in less color, your senses aren't as activated. So using grounding techniques, forcing yourself to focus on your senses, like putting your hand on a hard surface and noting what that texture feels like. Is it warm? Is it cool? Is it wood? Is it stone? You're starting to activate your senses. And your prefrontal cortex is waking up and saying, hey, is there a decision that needs to be made here? And that gives your limbic brain in the back a chance to chill out. And then you can use those interventions like we talked about, swap out a positive memory for a negative thought. And then, a classic strengths-based approach in coaching is appreciative inquiry. So, okay, well, this is a tough situation. I'm feeling kind of crappy. Has there ever been a time in my life when I overcame this? Has there ever been a time in my life where something good happened out of a situation like this? Has there ever been a time in my life where I faced something similar? Most of the time, we can find something good.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
A couple of the interviews that I've done recently, I did one with a fantastic guy called Flippin. It was a great name. And another one with Laurie Gottlieb. She's a psychologist.
Yes.
A lot of them were speaking about their the story and the strength that we have in our story. And actually, it's all coming back to me now. A lot of Flip's was about your third story, rewriting your story. Laurie's is the same, like writing stories from different perspectives and just being aware that like your take on something isn't always in like an argument situation, for example, or when there's conflict, seeing it from another side of the story. What's kind of your, what are your thoughts on and how the story is important? There was that exercise that we did. Is there other parts of it that you work with?
Yeah. So at JRNI, we believe that your story is your gold and that your story creates ripples. And when we're thinking about what it's like for most adults today, people are really isolated. They're really lonely. They're spending time on social media and they're seeing the curation of other humans' greatest hits, and they might be feeling very poorly about themselves in context. When somebody acts with bravery and tells their story authentically and shines light on the parts that maybe weren't so great or the challenges that they've overcome, just like I'm super open about having experienced eating disorders and depression from a really young age. I have people reach out all the time who say, this helped me.
Yeah.
This helped me see that transformation is possible. I can be happy. I can live a full and flourishing life.
Yeah, I found that to be the case too. And so, speaking with bravery about your story and how that can benefit others. Just want to thank you for the lovely giveaway that you've offered to the Uplifting Content
Yay.
audience. So would you mind sharing a bit about that with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So every time I go on a podcast, we offer $200 off our coach training program to any of the listeners. But for your audience, we've gone a step further, and we'd also like to offer a complimentary coaching session with any of our 600 coaches. We will personally pair you with somebody who can really help you. To meet your goals and to even get a taste of what coaching is like and see if it's something you might be interested in.
Thank you so much for that, because I think for some people, there's a lot of curiosity and interest, and kind of sometimes there can be doubts or questions and not sure about spending money on something if you don't know what it is. And this is a fantastic opportunity if you've had that interest in, like you say, either becoming a coach or getting a coach. Mm-hmm. This is a great way to experience it. So I would highly recommend it. Working with mine has been just really helpful for me to process and figure out what I want to be doing. And again, yeah, she's not telling me what she thinks I should do, just allowing me to figure out what I want to do. So it's amazing to have.
It is. I work with 4 coaches.
Yeah, good. I was going to ask that actually. And I think it is important that coaches work with coaches, because we're always growing. We're always learning. You know, it's nice for you to have someone or people that hold space for you. So yeah, it's brilliant.
Oh yeah, it's a lifesaver to be able to, dump my life Legos out and just say, blah, here it is. Here's everything that's going on, and have somebody else sort through it for me. It's like taking a vacation for an hour.
I love it. And so do you have different coaches for different things, or?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Bonnie is my coach. I work with her on mindset. She's a former CIA agent. And as a female CEO under 40, as a feminist coach in an emerging field, I have some work to do.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So that's incredible. And then I work with some other folks on strategy and legal as needed. So it's wonderful.
Amazing. Noelle, this has been lovely speaking to you. The 30 minutes has flown by.
It really has.
Yeah, I feel like we've just begun. Thank you so much for the work that you do, offering a fantastic giveaway to the audience, and just for your time today. Thank you.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure. Thank you as well.
My pleasure. All right, guys, that's it from me this week. You will hear from me soon. Bye.